Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is the week of September 12th, 2024. Current challenge is, as we expected, Regime Hawkgirl. It's a 1-week repeat. Required characters are Catwoman, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday, available as cheaply as bronze, and silver. Hawkgirl's passive is Shock and Awe. When Hawkgirl tags in, she disables all opponents' special attacks for 5 seconds. If she gets 200% on Special 2, it will become a critical hit. She has 1100 attack and 1000 health. She was last available September 7th, 2023, so just over a year ago. She's got middling stats, and what's interesting about that is in the current meta, definitely, they're just sort of, middle of the road. But they're only 100 less total base stats than a couple weeks ago Godfall Superman, who used to be at one point one of the highest stat characters. So just a little bit of interesting context. So if we look back to the time before we forced ourselves to play with Regime Hawkgirl, we used to think that she wasn't the best card because her base stats were lower than the more recent stat beasts. No surprise, since she hadn't been around for years before her challenge came back. I guess in 2021, there'd been a gap. But she had an interesting passive to auto-crit if you get 200% on her Special 2. And one thing to point out, the circle for the tapping disappears really quickly, but it isn't too hard to get 200%. You just have to start tapping where in the general area where the circle will appear before it appears, and your chance of hitting 200% is really high. The other part of her passive never appealed to me. I was not a big fan of disabling specials temporarily, since opponents, they're still generating power. They still have the power that they started with, and they're still generating power while their special's disabled. Now, that passive is a little better than most gears that disable specials, because she does it every time she tags in. And the gears usually are a percentage chance of disabling gears. And again, we used to think that even with Regime Hawkgirl disabling specials, unless you knock out your opponent in 5 seconds, they're ready to drop a special on you right after her passive of blocking specials finishes. And we used to think that her main value would be in completing your collection. And yeah, the key phrase is used to. As you can see from the demo with her in the video, the disabling of specials is actually, to borrow a Pokemon term, super effective. With the team that we've got and the gears that we've got, there are a few keys on why this combination works so well. 1, Regime Hawkgirl is our specialist. If you want to make the most of her disabling specials, you need to be ready to take out your opponent fast, which usually means having power when she tags in, so you can drop some specials. So if she's your specialist, and she is for us with Tentu Totem and Master's Death card, that's exactly what happens. She drops in, disables the opponent's specials. She's got 2 bars. Second thing is, Hawkgirl Prime is your teammate. Prime's passive is to allow quicker tag out and tag in, and that means that you can tag out Regime Hawkgirl quickly enough before the opponent's specials come back into play. So they're still disabled by the time the next teammate tags in, and that's the third point, which is Rebirth Raven with Enchantress Companion Gear. So anybody with Enchantress would be helpful, since the skulls that fly after you do a special act effectively as a specials disabler, even though it doesn't say that in the card abilities. However, the person tagging in needs power, and other than certain opponents who resist power drain, like Static, Lobo, Red Lantern Hal Jordan, sometimes Arkham Knight Batman, Rebirth Raven can steal the opponent's power if they have any, and you do a special, and then you can tag out even before the skulls start flying. The skulls are flying, opponents still can't do a special until after they're done, and bam. So when you tag in Rebirth Raven, even if the opponent doesn't have power, you don't need to worry about them doing a special, right? But if they have power, you steal it. There's a great synergy for Rebirth Raven with Quake Engine, which boosts the damage against an opponent with less than a bar of power by 50%. And that's going to be the case most of the time when you tag in Rebirth Raven, because she steals it. And the beauty of this team and this setup is you don't even have to worry about Lexicor gear. Yes, 2 pieces will reverse power drain, but the LexCorp gear set ability of reversing power drain works funny. Both of you will get power when that ability triggers. They will get it because that's the ability, but you still get it if you're trying to drain power. So in effect, it's sort of generating power out of nothing because it's not like one person gets it. You both get a boost. And with Hawkgirl Prime speeding up your tag-ins, the opponent's specials are still disabled from Hawkgirl Regime's passive when you tag in Rebirth Raven. So steps. So this is how it works, right? So against reverse power drain with this team, Rebirth Raven tags into steal power. But the opponent gets more power because of the LexCorp gear set. But they can't do a special because their specials are still disabled by Regime Hawkgirl. And that means Rebirth Raven unloads a special before they can use any of their power. Enchantress Companion Gears releases the skulls that act as another specials disabler, and then you tag in Regime Hawkgirl to strip all gears, right? She's got Master's Death Cart and Claw of Horus and Tentu Totem. So she comes in, Master's Death Cart, leverage with Claw of Horus, strips all the gears. Her passive disables specials, and then you tag back in Rebirth Raven to steal all the power again. Only this time, there's no reversal with LexCorp gears. And yeah, because they're all stripped. You can do it in one shot with Hawkgirl. Amazing synergy. And this strategy works just as well against 2 pieces of LexCorp gears as it does Astro Harness. So even if somebody has exactly that loadout, 2 LexCorp gears, Astro Harness, we're just laughing. It doesn't really matter. And so this is a good example of one of those teams that work perfectly because of almost perfect synergy. If you take any one element out, you really struggle in the fights and you notice how much less effective it is. It's like super effective with all 3 together. And then you just take out one element and all of a sudden you lose a lot of that. So that's why, despite being so good, this team is especially vulnerable to an opponent who has a Joker holding Quake Engine, which negates the benefit you get from Hawkgirl Prime being able to tag in and tag out quickly. And again, you're also still at the mercy of teams that have entry hazards like Arkham Knight Harley Quinn or Gaslight Batman. But disabling specials makes this team less vulnerable than almost any other team that relies on tagging in and tagging out, which I think for most people, it's going to be a lot of Tantu Totem teams. So where you see this illustrated perfectly is in the last fight of an ultimate, which I placed at the beginning of this video, which you watched right at the beginning, where despite very dangerous opponents coming in with power and having sort of defenses against it, not a big deal at all. I think the one nuance for Regime Hawkgirl is that the first hit of her special 2 is not ranged. So if the opponent's too far away, that big smash that she does with her mace or Morningstar or whatever, it misses if you're not close enough. The good news is it doesn't make up a big chunk of the damage. I feel like it's maybe somewhere around a quarter or less of the damage, so it doesn't really hurt you that much. So if you're really in trouble, it's not worth the effort of trying to get close before you unload. But here's the kicker, right? I mean, she disables the opponent's special, so the usual reason why you don't want to wait until you get closer, to avoid specials, doesn't apply here. So she's pretty good. This is week 20 since the end of the 4-year repeating challenge cycle. We are still in uncharted territory. There are still 13 more missing challenge characters that may potentially be put into the schedule. And based on what's happened, we're alternating between the old repeating challenge cycle and inserting a new character. And we jumped the gun a little bit, thinking that it might have been Injustice 2 Aquaman, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Injustice 2 Aquaman next week. And we'll get into more reasons why. So this week's multiplayer reward is Blackest Night Doomsday. His passive is Dark Momentum. While tagged in, Doomsday's special attacks builds up over time to do a total of 2 times damage. He's got 1050 attack, 1400 health. Last available earlier this year, 8th of February. And unlike the challenge cycle, nothing is missing from multiplayer rewards. And if the pattern holds, next week should be Ares. So he's got good stats. Decent damage, even better health. His passive gives up to a 2 times boost. So that's 1/3 boost for every seconds every 7 seconds he's in play. So, because you're just doubling it, right? So you're getting 100%, basically 100% boost, and 1/3 of it every 7 seconds. So it's not 7 seconds after the fight starts, though. It's 7 seconds after he is on the screen. So his passive means that he's less likely to be the star of your team. Or at least his passive isn't going to be the difference maker that helps him be the star of your team. In my mind, the star needs to be your main damage dealer, and he has to do it right from the start. And in the Tantu Totem world, that means you tag in immediately, you do specials. So if he is your main guy, for a big chunk of the fight, you're not getting the benefit from his passes. So you look at some of the times of the fights, right? 14 seconds, fight's often over, and that's everybody included. So at best, you're going to be maybe 2/3 boost to his special 2. It's not a lot, and that's usually right by the end of it, right? So like all Blackest Night characters, Doomsday gets much better being on the same team as Blackest Night Hawkgirl. Her passive that revives Blackest Night teammates makes him a little bit more durable and tanky, so he has a better chance of surviving the 21 seconds you need for his passive to double his specials damage. And I guess he's sort of okay as your specialist, but, there's that sort of bit of a dilemma, right? Do you give him gears to get to his specials faster, or do you make him more durable so that he can survive long enough to take advantage of his passive? And I think the most powerful characters don't require that kind of trade-off. And if we're looking at Blackest Night teams, in my mind, the top 3 really are, no particular order, Hawkgirl, because she will make all Blackest Night teammates better. Flash, because he reverses damage over time for all of his teammates. And Batman for unblockable attacks. So maybe Doomsday makes it on a team if you're missing one of those 3, but in my mind, he's not even one of the top 3 Blackest Night characters. Okay, in the store, this was the clue that made us really think next week is going to be Injustice 2 Aquaman. It's his pack. It's $12.99 Canadian, which is the only currency that matters. It is a clue to next week's challenge. It does not come with credits, so it's priced accordingly, only $12.99. It does not unlock in your store. So, yeah, I mean, as good as the price is, it's still not worth buying, because next week you're going to get them free, and then you're going to be able to buy them with power credits. The other new pack this week is the Character Bundle Lantern Elite for $24.99. It's got Red Lantern Hal Jordan, Yellow Lantern Hal Jordan, and 2 copies of his Green Power Ring, which is always the lamest when you've got characters that come with their signature gear and it's not that good. And it's not only not that good in a pack like this where it's the same thing twice, it's almost a waste. Femme Fatale pack is the second week. We talked about it last week. And that's it for anything new. Everything else has been in the store for at least a year, a couple years. Phantom Zone is finished. Fight 62 is still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Bane, Killer Frost, and Ares. This coming weekend's is probably Sinestro, Green Arrow, and Scorpion. Link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16, one of the mods there that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And this is where we usually go into more detail every time something significant changes when it comes to current glitches. Didn't happen this week, but even if nothing changes, we still do a bit more of a detailed talk once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was our recap from last week, September 5th. You can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, that's linked in the description of this video. The only thing probably worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's Regime Hawkgirl challenge. And that's it. So this is where we like to give a big thank you to our patrons on Patreon, and that is Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek, who are supporting us on the credited level. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.